Hey, this is Tami Gaines. Welcome to Tami's Table. I am so excited that you're joining us, pulling up a chair and grabbing a bite of what we're going to be talking about today. Tami's Table is all about talking about building resilience. How we get through things stronger than we were presented with them. So at the table, we tell stories, we have different guests with different perspectives, but it's all about helping you be stronger, build stronger, and grow. So today's we have a special edition since today is the total eclipse. We're going to talk about what we can learn from an eclipse, what we need to block out. So with that, I want to show you a very cool video. A total eclipse of the sun is like nature's grand celestial magic show. Imagine you're outside on a sunny day and suddenly the sky starts to dim, almost like someone is slowly turning down a giant dimmer switch. As the darkness creeps in, you might notice a chill in the air, and the birds might stop singing, unsure of what's happening. Then, at the peak of the eclipse, the sun disappears completely behind the moon, leaving only a breathtaking ring of light. It's a rare and awe-inspiring sight that can leave you feeling small in the vastness of the universe. I thought that was such an interesting description. Of course, we've all been watching the news. You can't run away from eclipse mania. Um, but it reminded me, as I read that particular description, it reminded me of what happens when you get sideswiped by life, right? One day everything is sunny and bright, the birds are singing, kids are playing, and all of a sudden it's like somebody slowly turns down that giant dimmer switch and darkness sets in. And the question is, how do you stay standing as the moon passes the sun until the light comes again? So that's what we're going to talk about today, are those things that you need to block out in order to stay resilient, just the same way the eclipse happens. So listen, I just want to say again, I don't care who you are, life throws curveballs at us, but it's not about avoiding them. It's really about how we navigate through them with strength and grace. And what I'm going to talk to you about today, I believe, are 6 points that you can take action on right away to help you start to move through whatever it is you're going through. So the first thing you need to block out is negative self-talk. Our inner dialogue is a powerful force, whether you're saying great things to yourself or bad things to yourself, it all gets absorbed. Um, Negative self-talk hinders our ability to bounce back. If you think about some of the things you say to yourself, if a stranger walked up to you on the street and said to you some of the things you say to yourself, you'd smack them in the face for being rude and disrespectful. And we need to think about that when we talk about negative self-talk. It's easy to call yourself names. It's easy to get down on yourself. It's easy to blame yourself. It's easy to feel guilty. It's easy to tell yourself you're not worthy or you're not as good as, but the truth is, it's a better habit to form to say great things. Like today, I'm going to do a fantastic podcast. Yesterday was yesterday. Today is today. You have to build yourself up because guess what? Nobody else will. You can't rely on any external force to build you up. So when you talk to yourself, be kind. Give yourself grace. Whatever it is you're going through, it is a process and it will take its time. You can't force it. You can't control it. So be good to yourself. The things that you say to yourself should be supportive and give you light and make you feel confident. So you got to block negative self-talk. That's the first one. Just a couple of things before we move on to the next one. I talked about giving yourself grace. That is practicing self-compassion and kindness. You forgot your grocery list at home and you got to the store and realized it. Give yourself grace. Just buy what you can remember. You can always go back, for example. Surround yourself with positive affirmations. So I do positive affirmations every morning and it depends what's going on. Sometimes the affirmations are around money. Sometimes they're around relationships. Sometimes it's around my kids. But it's a really great way to start your day and end your day with affirmations. And if you're looking for affirmations, you can get them on my website under resources. Okay, let's go on to the next one. The next one is that you have to block is external criticism. I have found that whether it's from peers or society or at your job, people tend to criticize other people because they're not happy with themselves. So if you absorb external criticism, whatever it is, it's about your wardrobe, it's about your choice in partners, it's you're getting criticism on the job for something you did. Whatever it is critically important to develop a strong sense of self-worth so that you don't let that criticism seep in. It really has no place in your life. Um, and I think you also need to develop a skill of filtering criticism from constructive feedback. There's a very big difference, and you need to be open to it. I believe when you sense it's criticism, you should just shut it down. Shut it down. Thank you so much. And keep it moving. Don't give it any air. Don't give it any life. By the way, that'll do two things. It'll help block it out of your inner psyche, and it will let the other person know that you're not interested in their opinion. You're not interested in what they have to say for you, say about you. You know, um, I believe that if we focus on our strengths, not our weaknesses, by the way, which criticism is all about focusing on your weaknesses. If you build up your strengths, you will build a fortress against external criticism. And that is wildly important. You have to be really careful of who you surround yourself with. And we're going to get to that in a minute. So let's go on to the next one. The next thing you have to block out is the comparison trap. It's so easy to look at somebody else's life and say, they have it so good, or that's a great relationship. I want something like that. Or even like their dog is so well behaved. I want to do that. Comparing ourselves to other people can lead to feelings of inadequacy. It eats away at your confidence and your resilience. So think about this for a second. You look at other people's lives, maybe you envy them and you wish you had that. You're comparing what you have to what somebody else has. Now, these very people that you're admiring and envious of, ask them if they would pay your mortgage bill for you. You're a little short on cash. Can they pay your mortgage bill? The answer is no. Will they, you get diagnosed with some chronic disease. Will they take that from you so that you could live? The answer is no. These people won't die for you, so why would you let them live for you? Why would you take what they're saying with so much intent and interest? This is all a result of what I call the comparison trap. And I think there's a couple of ways to block this out and to overcome it. The first thing is practicing gratitude for where you are in your journey. Your journey is uniquely yours and yours alone to take. And if you practice gratitude at every step of the way, you will realize that you're exactly where you need to be right now. And you don't need to compare yourself to anybody else. I think the other piece of blocking out the comparison trap is recognizing that everybody's path is different. No two people's paths are exactly the same. And I said it before and I'll say it again. You're exactly where you're supposed to be, whether you like it or not. You are being set up. You're being set up for a massive comeback. And you have to look at your journey that way. And instead of using energy to compare yourself to other people, use that very same energy to develop yourself. Invest in personal development. Invest in platforms like Soulivity, where you can learn so many things from so many different people, and you could apply them immediately, actionable items. Seek out people that have what you want. Seek out people that are emanating a really positive message. You want to find yourself in a constant state of self-improvement. That not only builds your resilience, but it helps you block out the need or the want to compare yourself to other people. So with that, we're going to take a quick break and then we'll come back and we'll keep talking about what we can learn from an eclipse. Sorry.
One more time, we're gonna celebrate. Oh yeah, alright, don't stop the dancing. One more time, we're gonna celebrate. Oh yeah, don't stop the dancing. One more time. You know I'm just feeling celebration tonight. Celebrate. Don't wait too late. No, we don't stop. You can't stop. We're gonna celebrate. One more time. One more time. One more time. A celebration.
Hey, welcome back to Tami's Table. We are talking about what we can learn from an eclipse today, since today is the total eclipse of the sun. And I'm excited. I'm excited about this episode. I think if people put these things into action, they will build resilience in ways they never thought possible. So let's get on to the next piece here. The next tip. What do you need to block out? You need to block out your fear of failure. Fear of failure paralyzes us. It prevents us from recognizing growth opportunities that are right before us. So why are we so afraid of failing? It's society, maybe it's the way we were raised. I welcome failure. I fail forward, and you can too if you put failure in the right perspective. First of all, I know it makes people uncomfortable when you talk about failure or the possibility of failure. It makes people uncomfortable, but your growth is just on the other side of that discomfort. Your growth is right on the other side of that discomfort. So welcome failure. I think it's important to define what failure is. It might not be a full-on failure. It might just be a setback. I played sports growing up and all, like, through my adult life even. And I remember winning and losing. I played softball. We won a bunch of games. We lost a bunch of games. The biggest learning and the biggest growth as a team and individually came from the losses. It forced us to sit down, evaluate our performance, talk about what we could do better, support it, give each other encouragement and support for people that made an error, ball went through their legs. It's an opportunity to take a hard look at what you've been doing and decide if you need a new game plan. The new game plan is going to help you sidestep failure. I don't know. It's very interesting. I've traveled around the country, even around the world, talking to people, and fear of failure is the biggest thing that holds them back. What if I don't? What if I can't? What if it doesn't work out? So what if it doesn't? What did you learn from that experience? We don't climb under the covers when we fail and put our thumb in our mouth. The thing to do is to say, okay, that didn't work out. Why? What didn't work out? What was in my control? What was out of my control? What am I going to do differently the next time? Because there will be a next time. Because I know everyone listening, you guys are warriors. So just because you fail doesn't mean you stop. You get up and you try again, and you try a different way. So I encourage you to take risks, to take chances, because you have no idea what could be waiting out there for you. If you keep yourself in a boxed in fear, you will never have a chance to see the opportunities that lie ahead. And I always say, I said it before, I think everything is being done for you. It's not being done to you. So if you believe that in your soul, then you will move out of your fear-based place and you'll start to walk down that path that has been set before you. So embrace failure, fail forward. I'm a big fan of failing forward, and I have lots of evidence that I've done that. So let's move on to the next one, which is it's a big one. The next thing that we need to block out are toxic relationships. And sometimes we don't recognize toxic relationships, but if you have a relationship, whether it's somebody in your family or it's a friend or it's an actual romantic relationship, toxic relationships drain your energy. They erode your self-esteem. They make it really difficult to weather life's storms because they are always there to pull you down. So if you're not sure if you have a toxic relationship, are you exhausted after you interact with that person? Do they criticize you? I know we talked about criticism before, but do they criticize you? Do they support you or do they pull you down? And you know that saying, misery loves company? Misery does love company. So you have to be careful of who you surround yourself with. I actually wrote a book. I'm a gardener, love gardening. And I wrote a little book called Life Lessons from the Soil, Weeding Your Garden. And the entire book is all about weeding your garden. It's about not letting people choke the life out of you and not letting people take your resources, whether it's time or energy or money. It talks about how important it is to give light and water to those things that you want to grow and pull all of those weeds out that don't support you in any way at all. And I know that it's hard weeding out toxic relationships. Some of these relationships are people that are really close to you. I have somebody in my immediate family. We have a horribly toxic relationship. And in order to preserve myself and to preserve my soul and to stay positive while I was going through something really difficult, I just stopped talking to them. And I stopped talking to them for almost 3 years until I felt I was strong enough to create boundaries around that relationship. Nothing is ever permanent. So when I talk about getting rid of toxic relationships, I will say if that's a toxic relationship that's been in your life for 10 or 15 or 20 years, that relationship is probably not going to change. If it's a newer relationship, it's okay to say, you know what, I need a break. I'm going to take a break for a little while. I believe that there are seasons for people, and you need to know what season to invite people in where they can support you on your journey, whatever your journey is, whether your journey is as an entrepreneur or in business. If you have people in your life that say like, you'll never get a promotion, you'll never be any better than what you are right now, that's not somebody for you. You're starting a business and somebody's telling you in your ear, it's probably going to fail. Call me when it's over. Not, what can I do to help you succeed? So take some time. I would encourage you to take some time, after we get off today or whenever you're listening to this podcast, find a quiet place. Find a quiet place and really marinate on the people that you spend the most time with. Are they supportive? Are they not supportive? Do they lift you up or do they keep you down? I think that is a very hard reality. It's a very difficult thing to do when you try and exit people from your life. But I'll say again, just remember that it's not forever. There are seasons for people. And in lieu of exiting people from your life, there's a couple of other things that you can do from a strategic standpoint. Number one, you can cultivate safe boundaries. So what does that look like? There's things that you'll put up with and things that you won't. So there's people in my life, when we get on a certain topic, I shut it down. I gotta go. The other phone is ringing. Um, Creating boundaries protects you, it protects your heart, it protects your goals, it protects your journey. So you have to decide what those boundaries are. Um, Again, if these are negative people in your life that we're talking about, maybe you take them in doses. I'll talk to them for 10 minutes today. Or I will talk to them once a week instead of every day. There's all sorts of ways to set boundaries. The important thing is that you do set boundaries to protect your mental and your emotional well-being. Um, Along those lines, you want to surround yourself with positive people that uplift you. And if they don't exist in your life right now, go find them. Go find people with shared interests. Get out and network. Go to events. You will meet people. What you want to do is build a team of people that have your back no matter what. When things are good, when things are bad, they're always in your corner. And when you're down on yourself, they're up on you. When you're feeling like you can't go on, they're the ones that tell you, come on, I'll go with you to the finish line. So, um, not not a lot of people have a lot of positive people in your life. So, by the way, I'm not talking about having a team of 20. It could be a team of 3, and sometimes it could be a team of 1. A partner in crime, your ride and die. You know they got you no matter what. So, blocking toxic relationships, surrounding yourself with positive, supportive people, is critically important. And then I'll also say this because I've done this. If you feel like you can't weed out a toxic relationship and it's affecting your mental health and it's affecting your perspective on yourself and your self-confidence, go get help. Go seek professional help so you could talk through it. I'm a big fan of therapy. I've been through therapy, and counseling. Know when to throw up the white flag. And when it comes to relationships, which our entire life is built on relationships, when it comes to that, if you can't figure it out yourself, find somebody that can hold your hand and help you navigate it. So that is blocking out toxic relationships. Um, let's talk about the next, and certainly not the last, but the last thing that you need to block out in order to remain resilient, you need to block it the way the eclipse is going to block today, is unhealthy coping mechanisms. So, what does that look like? It could be something as simple as avoidance. Avoidance is an unhealthy coping mechanism. You got to take stuff head on. You can't run from whatever it is forever. Um, Exacerbating difficulties rather than helping them. So some people love to live in the drama. Believe it or not, that's a coping mechanism. They don't want to get on the other side of whatever it is they're working through. They prefer to be in the drama because sometimes it gets other people's attention. It gets them sympathy and empathy. And people are so concerned, and suddenly you're under the spotlight and you love the attention. That is an unhealthy coping mechanism. Um, and then there's some stuff that you probably know that need to be dealt with. Eating, unhealthy coping mechanism, not eating, because of course we all need to eat. Overeating, binge eating because you feel bad about yourself. Or it makes you feel better. You're eating comfort food, except that comfort food is happening all the time and nothing is actually changing in your situation. Um, Using drugs, using alcohol to mask your feelings. All of those are unhealthy coping mechanisms. So, what do? I will say this, if you have been struggling with unhealthy coping mechanisms, um, by the way, let me throw one out there before I get into this. Another unhealthy coping mechanism, and we have talked about criticism, blocking it out, but you criticizing other people is another unhealthy coping mechanism. Sometimes when people feel bad about themselves, they want to point the finger and rip somebody else apart to make themselves feel better. That is also very unhealthy. So, what I started to say was if you've been doing unhealthy coping mechanisms for 3 to 6 months and you can't break it and you can't stop it, again, I would refer you to get professional help to talk it out. And by the way, that doesn't mean it's a life sentence of professional help. It could be you need to just talk through a couple of things, a couple of sessions, for a couple of months. Um, there are some really healthy coping mechanisms that I would recommend. And you ease into them. If this is not something you're used to, you ease into it. You try it maybe once a week. That goes well, you up it to twice a week. But practicing mindfulness is critically important. Being in the moment, being right here in this particular moment right now and experiencing what I'm experiencing, not thinking about what happened yesterday, not thinking about what might happen tomorrow, but being in this very moment is a really good exercise for you to practice. And it's difficult. There's distractions, there's kids crying, there's the phone is ringing. I say shut it all off for 10 to 15 minutes a day, ideally in the morning, and just be still. Just be still. Honor yourself. Praise yourself. Think about what you're going to do today and how you're going to do it. But while you're doing that, just be in the moment. Try and block everything else out. We talked about reaching out for support. By the way, if you don't want to go to a professional and you have people in your life, in your world that are amazing, that you trust, reach out to your family, reach out to your friends, just get support. And the last piece I'll say about this is practicing regular self-care is so important. So physically, we just saw that commercial for a magnesium spray. It was all people working out. Listen, you have to move, you have to get physical. It helps with your self-care. So whether it's walking or you do yoga or you do whatever you do, just do it. Make sure you're moving. Emotionally, if you like to read, you listen to a podcast, make sure you're filling your brain with positive information. That is critically important. So daily self-care. So let's recap. I'm going to run through these again. I hope you'll re-listen to the podcast and take some tips and take some notes and say, you know what? I'm going to start with this. Don't do all 6 at once. You'll never accomplish that. Pick one thing that you can implement for the next couple of weeks, then add another one. So again, what can we block out? What do we learn from the eclipse? Block out negative self-talk. You want to block out external criticism. You want to block out the comparison trap. You want to block out fear of failure. Sorry, my slides aren't keeping up. Fear of failure. You want to block out toxic relationships. And then maybe the most important is that you want to block out unhealthy coping mechanisms. So I wanted to talk before we end about the spiritual side of the eclipse. I have Native American in my background. I was really curious over the weekend to learn about my ancestors' interpretation of the eclipse. And most Native Americans view the eclipse as a powerful omen or a sign from the divine. It's a time for transformation and renewal. And it's a reminder that even in moments of darkness, you can find light on a deeper level. I hope you take some time today, whether it's during the eclipse or it's just during the day. Take some time to be quiet with yourself. It is a time of transformation and renewal. What do you want to transform into? What do you hope to start? What do you hope to jumpstart? We have a boost from the sun and the moon, and we should take advantage of it. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a pleasure. I'm so glad you pulled up a chair and sat at the table today. We are here every Monday at 12 o'clock with different guests to talk about different ways you could build resilience. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you the next time.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted its prior written consent. consent. All other rights reserved.